A sad but true story. There was a night in July a few years ago. Why'd I eat the acid? I don't know. I wasn't thinking and I wasn't scared. Why'd I eat the acid? I wasn't prepared. The last time I did acid I went insane. I was hanging out with some friends just getting loaded when all of a sudden my mind exploded. I realized I was gay and I got paranoid. I was sitting on the floor listening to Pink Floyd. The last time I did acid I went insane. And I was drawing crazy pictures, and before I was done, the picture started pulsing like an alien lung. And I said, oh my god, this has just begun. And it was 12 more hours before I was done, and we were up on the rooftop. And I'll tell you the truth, I was convinced I'd already fallen off of the roof. And these weird metal things all around that space, they were teleporting me from place to place. The last time I did acid I went insane. So we ran back downstairs where it was better to be, but I was trapped in spiral staircase infinity. And when we got to the door I couldn't go inside, cause it was the gates of heaven and I had died. The last time I did acid I went insane. And this kid named Grim, he punched a cat in the head. He could read my thoughts, that's what he said. And he described what it was like, but I didn't believe it. Like lifting a rug and seeing stars beneath it. Ooh. First rule of tripping was don't be with people you don't trust. The second rule of LSD, the rooftop is not a good place to be. The third rule is to be prepared. The fourth rule is to not get scared. The fifth rule is to stay serene. Turn off your mind and float downstream. The sixth rule is to have a good friend at hand. The seventh rule, I hope you understand, is not to look too deep into your soul, or you might find a hideous, hopeless hole of hatred, hunger, infinite, idiot, mindless, meaningless, nothingness, 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 nothingness. And that's what I did. Cause every aspect of life that I selected was instantly and brutally dissected. I saw the horrible emptiness within, the reasons behind everything. And it was at that moment that I went insane. Because it was on this occasion when 16-year-old Jeffrey finally fulfilled his youthful life's ambition, which was to discover in deep philosophical terms what exactly was the meaning of life, what was the meaning of human consciousness. I was determined to look within on these youthful psychedelic experiences while my stupid friends were just taking acid and having fun. Those fools. I was involved in more serious pursuits for the good of humanity. I was gonna find out the answers, but then on this occasion, I think it was probably I don't remember the exact date, but it was sometime there in the 90s. I did actually, on this occasion, I should remember the exact date. It was momentous because I discovered the meaning of life. It should be written on a plaque somewhere for all of the human race to commemorate. But the problem was that when I discovered the meaning of life, I immediately realized that it was horrible. I didn't know that was going to be the case. I thought it would be cool to discover the meaning of life. How was I supposed to know it was going to be horrible? I was only 16. What did I know about anything? But now I happened to know the meaning of life and the truth of everything, and I realized that I was the first person to ever have discovered this. I was somehow at the pinnacle of all evolution of human consciousness, that it's for some reason just in this particular time and place, in this particular brain, everything that had been achieved by the long, slow evolutionary process of developing consciousness was finally, perfected in this moment of a complete overview of how it all worked and what everything meant. But it was unfortunate that it had to happen to me, because the things that I realized were basically of such a nature that it made my life seem impossible to go on living. And furthermore, I was going to have to keep this secret to myself, because it was it's a big responsibility to not destroy other people's consciousnesses. In fact, I didn't want to let the secret out, because I would probably destroy the consciousness of the entire human race, and that was just too much burden for me to bear, being just a mere 16-year-old fellow that I was. And you know, I was going to have to keep the secret in for the rest of my life. And as you can see, because the human race has not been destroyed since the 90s, from now, consciousness still exists, I did keep the secret in. I did a pretty good job with my responsibility. Despite my youth, I was able to bear the burden of that responsibility. But as it goes, as time goes by, and I question whether the human race is worth preserving. Perhaps human consciousness isn't such a great thing to keep intact. Perhaps I should let the secret out. Perhaps here tonight at Rumba in Columbus, Ohio, I should tell you all the deep, dark secret that I have to apologize in advance will destroy your consciousness, but maybe if we just don't tell anybody else outside this room, we can preserve the consciousness of the human race and not necessarily destroy everyone until we're, you know, sure that they deserve it. Because, I mean, maybe there's still hope. So as long as we keep the secret inside this room, I apologize in advance for destroying your consciousnesses, but now you have to at least share the responsibility with me of not telling anybody else. Okay, so it's like this, if I remember correctly. It was that everything is meaningless. Maybe some of you already know that, but it was a surprise to me at the time. Everything is meaningless, and the reason everything is meaningless is because everybody thinks something different is true, and whatever everybody, you know, what somebody thinks is true to them, and they think what you think is true is not true, and that applies to, you know, aesthetic choices and your deep, supposedly objective beliefs, which I realized were actually subjective, which was a terrible thing to realize. But I know you're all reeling in horror from this, but the idea that everybody thinks something different is true, and that what's true to them is true to them, but what you think is true is not true to them, therefore what you think is true, but it's not really true because somebody else thinks it's not true, but you think what they're thinking is true is not true, therefore that's not true either, but therefore they're all sort of equally true but equally untrue, and therefore it's all meaningless. So what's the point of drawing comic books? What's the point of doing anything? Because somebody else is going to think that it's like, that there is no point to it, and what they think is true for them, and so, horrible thing to realize, but it gets even worse. You couldn't imagine it could get worse, but it does, because I realized that this idea that everybody thinks something different is true, and what's true for them is not true for somebody else. That's just what I think is true. A terrible paradox. Well, anyway, that ruined my life. I'm sorry I had to ruin your lives by telling you that, but true story. True to me, anyway. A true story that was true to me. But okay, here's a meta example of how that actually played out in real life. Because when I started playing that song, I thought it was an objective fact that this was a song about a horrible experience that had happened to me, and yet I started playing it at open mic nights when I started, you know, going out and playing music, and people were like, hey, that's a really hilarious, entertaining song you got there. Hey, that guy that sings that song about acid. Hey, you gotta hear this guy's funny song about acid. So what was true to me was not true for them. And I realized that as a songwriter, I was gonna have to imbue my songs with more clarity in the future, because I wanted people to understand. See, because it was like weird, I started playing shows and people were like, oh, here's that guy that sings about acid. Let's offer him some acid. Let's invite him to our house after the show and do some acid with that acid guy, Jeffrey. So on my second album, I had to write a sequel song to make my position on this topic even clearer. So, well, we will now play for you the sequel song just to make sure the point is hammered home. Please don't make me write a third song.